You're comfortable. Sir, I'm not done. You're comfortable with the outcome of the investigation? You're elected by the people. The people filed a complaint because their daughters were on that boat. There's allegations of alcohol were on that boat, and all of a sudden the sheriff's investigation just stopped.
Take the elevator.
The investigation just stopped. Are you comfortable with that?
This is Channel 10's best work here?
This is questions. Well, you won't sit down with us and answer questions.
They should reopen the investigation and do a lot more to make sure that they didn't miss any possible violations and or possible criminal acts.
And now to an investigation you will see on Local 10. We've learned a Broward County Sheriff's deputy has been helping himself to a taxpayer-bought Sheriff's Department boat for personal use.
And the punishment, nothing more than a slap on the wrist. Tonight, law enforcement experts say that the department's internal affairs investigation is incomplete. Here's investigator Jeff Weinseer.
My daughter and many other girls from her class have been going boating with the Dunning family for years. We always assumed it was a family boat.
This 23-foot Intrepid she's talking about does belong to a family, a big family, the Taxpayers of Broward County. You see, the boat is owned by the Broward Sheriff's Office. It is unmarked, supposed to be used for undercover operations. But Local 10 News has learned veteran Broward County Sheriff's Deputy Jay Dunning has apparently been using it for pleasure. A parent whose teen has been on it as a guest of Deputy Dunning's daughter claims it's been going on for years.
There are several photos that have been taken on the boat from various families. They were plastered all over various social media sites.
Multiple emails along with pictures were sent to the sheriff's office, not only with claims that it's been going on for years, but allegations of alcohol on board. A picture obtained by Local 10 shows fishing equipment on board as well.
As a taxpayer, it's not okay. Who is footing the bill for this? Who is paying for the gas for these outings? Who would be stuck with the liability if there were an accident?
An internal affairs investigation was opened, and according to a report obtained by Local 10 News, Sergeant Matthew Perricone, a supervisor who was transferred into the Marine Unit 2.5 years ago, admitted he gave Deputy Dunning permission to use the boat for personal use when Dunning was off duty. It was then determined by internal affairs that Sergeant Perricone and Deputy Dunning could, quote, admit it and move on. Both got a written reprimand for violating department policy. The internal affairs investigation ended. Sergeant Perricone was moved out of the Marine Unit, but remains a ranking sergeant with the Broward Sheriff's Office today. Jeff Weinstein here with Local 10 News. How are you? Can I talk to you about your judgment call in allowing a fellow deputy to use a boat for personal use, a BSO boat?
No statement, sir. Thank you.
No statement. Is that a good judgment call, Sarge? Deputy Jay Dunning, a 30-year veteran of BSO, remains on the Marine Unit. According to documents provided by the Sheriff's Office, he was never questioned as part of the investigation. Can I talk to you at all, sir, about how many times you used the boat for pleasure with your family? Did you use our gas, taxpayers' gas, sir?
It's an incomplete investigation. There was no investigation done.
Robert Drago is a retired lieutenant colonel from the Broward Sheriff's Office, was part of the Marine Unit back in the 80s. He says admit it and move on may be an option.
But the investigation still has to be completed. There are juveniles involved. There's alcohol involved, apparently, according to the initial inquiry that I had seen. Nobody has cleared out, all these questions that need to be answered.
When you have something of this nature, I don't think it fits within the category of admit and move on.
Dr. Andrew Scott is a consultant after spending 44 years in law enforcement. He's the former Boca Raton police chief with a doctorate in criminal justice. He says being on the Marine Unit is a privilege, and Deputy Dunning wouldn't be on it under his watch.
The individual would have been removed from the unit as well as the supervisor. And I'd have to take a hard look as to the supervisor maintaining his or her rank.
Sheriff Gregory Toney refused multiple requests to do an on-camera interview, and a statement from his media relations unit didn't answer any of our specific questions. So we caught up with the sheriff outside a Broward County Commission meeting last week. Do we know how many times he used the boat?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't.
Do we know whose gas was used? Taxpayers' gas, or did he fill it up?
I do not know.
Isn't that something you'd want to know?
The way you're phrasing that is if there's some failure.
There is, according to
who?
2 law enforcement consultants, including somebody who worked for the Broward Sheriff's Office for 38 years.
Good question. I've been in office now for almost 3.5 years. Have I failed to hold anyone accountable in this organization? If there's a process that needs to be handled from a disciplinary action, I won't shy away from it.
You're comfortable. Sir, I'm not done. You're comfortable with the outcome of the investigation? You're elected by the people. The people filed a complaint because their daughters were on that boat. There's allegations of alcohol were on that boat, and all of a sudden the sheriff's investigation just stopped.
Take the
The
elevator.
investigation just stopped. Are you comfortable with that?
This is Channel 10's best work here?
This is questions.
the most
Well, you won't sit down with us and answer questions.
They should reopen the investigation and do a lot more to make sure that they didn't miss any possible violations and or possible criminal acts.
Jeff Wines here, Local 10 News.
Well, back on March 11th, Local 10 News made a public records request to review the personnel file for Sergeant Matthew Perricone. Almost 2 months later, that request is still pending.